Hello everyone. Thank you very much for joining this MOOC Agroecology East Africa. I'm very pleased to welcome you for this online course. So my name is Quentin. We'll get to know each other during the lecture. This lecture is a collaboration between Kisi University, JIMA University, and Antenna Foundation. Just to let you know, as it was first a lecture for JIMA University, and then we started with the recordings and everything. Then we decided to open it to the region. So some of the discussion will be a bit overlapping with my colleague Kim. It will alternate in during the lectures between Kim and me. And now, thank you very much for listening, and I will give the floor to my colleague. See you soon.
So in this first video, there will be three parts. The first one will be an introduction. I will introduce myself and the Antenna Foundation. Then I will talk about the first chapter of this lecture, which is the introduction. What are the problems of conventional modern agriculture, and why could we or should we use agroecology? And then a third part, which will be some practical issues about the lecture and the program. So this lecture is a collaboration between JIMA University College of Agriculture and Veterinary Medicine, which I don't need to introduce, and the Antenna Foundation. So on the JIMA side, we will work with Dr. Abebe on Opsuman, which will take part in this lecture that we organize together. On the antenna part, I'm the main lecturer, and we will also have some intervention from my colleague Quentin, which you will soon learn to know. So my name is Kim Schneider. I studied agricultural sciences at the ETH Zurich in Switzerland, and now since 5 years I work for the Antenna Foundation as an engineer and project manager. So first of all, to the Antenna Foundation, it is a Swiss foundation created 30 years ago with the aim to develop scientific research to find and disseminate innovative and accessible technological, economic, and medical solutions. So the idea is to develop a solution for the people who need it the most in the poorest countries, and then so test this solution, and if it works, then try to disseminate it. I am head of the agroecology unit, which is one of the units at Antenna Foundation. So we have different units. We have a unit working on wash as a water and hygiene. We have energy unit, nutrition unit, and so on. So I am head of the agroecology unit, and I will just start to make a small summary of what we do in order to introduce this lecture. So what we do at the agroecology unit, which is part of the goal of the Antenna Foundation. So as I said, the Antenna Foundation aims at developing a solution to meet the needs of the people who need the most on this planet. And this is why on the agroecology unit we focus on developing productive and sustainable agroecosystems. So what does it mean? It means we will develop uh, an example at a master of an agroecosystem. So the idea is to replicate the stability of a natural ecosystem, but so we introduce food crops and productive animals in it. So we will use positive interaction between crops. We will use positive interaction with insects that can help us, negative interaction towards insects that are pests and that we don't want, as well as weed, and a resilient system due to a wide biodiversity and management of resources in a closed circuit. So concretely, what we do is develop this what we call agroecosystemic model. So it's basically the plan, the design of a farm. The plan or the design of a farm that can produce intensively and sustainably on a small area, usually the area corresponding to to the size of the farms, of the small-scale farmers we have in the target countries. And on this small area, the farm can produce everything that you need, which means vegetables, cereals, fruits, animals, and cash crops. The farms, according to this design, works without use of synthetic and external pesticide and fertilizer, which means the animal produces necessary manure together with composting and green manuring, and the most, yeah. So we developed these models for different geoclimatic regions of Africa. The idea is to have a map of the different climate and to have an according typical farm for all of the climate. So we will make models according to the climate, the length and the intensity of the rainy season, the main type of soils in the region, and the commodities that people eat and produce in this region. We developed these models in collaboration with our local partner, in the case of Ethiopia with Jimma University, and we try to combine traditional practices of the target zone country or of other countries with scientific research and results that we find on paper. So we try to make a synthesis of everything we can find, including traditional knowledge and scientific knowledge. For the moment, we have established 4 complete farms in Cameroon, Burkina Faso, Mali, and Guinea. We are, together with Jimma University, creating a farm in Ethiopia since last year, and we have plans for new potential farms in Rwanda and Zimbabwe. So this was a bit to introduce what we do and what I do at the Etna Foundation. So it's just a short summary, and we will come back on this, and I will talk more intensively about these topics and what we do and how do we design this farm and so on. But now back to the main topic of today, which is the introduction to this lecture and introduce the problems of modern conventional agriculture, and then talk about the alternative, which could be agroecology. And then at the end, we will talk about the practical issue of the lecture. So modern conventional agriculture today worldwide is able to produce a lot, but causes a lot of different issues for hazards for health and for the environment. First of all, we have a pollution of the water generally in the world, and a lot due to agriculture. We have the health of human, which is endangered by this agriculture. We have worldwide a loss of biodiversity. We of course have the global warming, which agriculture is one of the reason, and we have soil degradation. So now we'll introduce some specific causes to these different problems that we just saw. So we have, for instance, monoculture. We have the poor or excessive use of pesticide or of fertilizer. We have an excessive greenhouse gas emission of agriculture. We have erosion and leaching, and other drivers of soil degradation. So now we will go a bit deeper into these different causes of the problems of conventional agriculture. So first of all, monoculture. Why is monoculture one of the main one of the main causes which provoke the different problems of modern agriculture? First of all, it implies a loss of biodiversity. Of course, if we have only one crop on one plot, on one farm, or even on one land or big area, like you could see on this picture, you have almost no biodiversity because you have almost no plant biodiversity because you only have one crop and a few weeds maybe. And if you have low plant biodiversity, you will also have a low insect biodiversity because not a lot of different insects can live on just one plant. So on this picture you see a bit of an extreme example of monoculture, and then you can see that the biodiversity on this area is extremely low. Um, why is this a problem? First of all, this implies a weak resilience of the system. If you have only one crop and then on these huge areas, and then a problem comes, you a new problem comes that you don't know how to deal, it will destroy all your harvest, all your crop. And this, of course, strengthen the dependence to pesticide, because usually if you have so few resilience of the system, you can only manage pests and weeds with pesticide. Then another problem, you will have a degradation of the soil, because you will always have the same crop which will take the same nutrients from the soil, and if it's especially if it's a demanding crop, you might um, um, uh, make the soil poorer quite quickly. A second cause of the problems of agriculture is the poor or excessive use of pesticides. So pesticides are products that allow us to kill the different pests and diseases that we have on our farm. And according to Abilash and Singh, we have about 45% of the global production which is lost to pest attacks. So clearly, pesticide can really help us to produce more and to protect our crops. So the different type that we have are, of course, the herbicide, which is the mostly used type of product. Almost half of the use is to kill weeds, and then secondly insecticide, 30% to kill pests, and 18% to kill fungal disease. So why is it a problem? First of all, we have a risk for the health. Firstly, of the farmer, especially like on this picture, if he applies without correct protection. So we have a direct negative impact on the farmer. Secondly, the pesticide will be washed away in the rivers, in the lakes, where we will get our water to drink. So this can causes uh, major health issues if the water is contaminated by pesticide. Thirdly, with inappropriate management, we will find pesticides or residues of pesticide, even with the right management in the crops and then in the food that we eat. So this can also cause health problems. Pesticide also causes environmental problems. We have a contamination of the water, so just like we discussed, but this of course is also a problem for the for the living organism in this water. Pesticides can also stay in the soil and contaminate them, and we have a loss of biodiversity by killing a lot of insects and plants that could help us or that just could improve the biodiversity. But is this a problem for Africa in general? Because if we look at the data from the FAO, we see that Africa only uses 2% of worldwide pesticides, so it's not much. So is it really an issue in Africa, or is it only in the different regions of the world? Yeah, it is actually an issue in Africa. First of all, we see that we still find waters polluted by pesticide in Africa. For example, in Lake Victoria, uh, Um, they were in 2014. The pesticide level in the fish was too high for selling in the EU. Secondly, it is an issue in Africa because we often have low user awareness, and it is often the case that there is inappropriate application, and this increases a lot the risk for the farmer who applies it, also for the consumer who eat the crop, and of course for the environment around it. We often have, depending on the countries, insufficient regulation on how to use it, how to store it, how to waste it, and often the products that can be found on the market are products that are quite toxic and that are already uh, illegal or not on the market anymore in Europe or in the US. So for this reason, it's still a problem, and it is necessary to have alternatives to these products. The next issue is the poor or the excessive use of fertilizers. So as you know, fertilizers are products that contain the nutrients that the plant need, so mostly nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium, and they are useful to increase yield. And phosphorus and potassium usually comes from mine, while nitrogen is obtained through industry to a chemical process. Why can it be a problem? Because it's just plant nutrients, so it helps yields, and there's not much reason for it to have an issue. But because they are not toxic, but depending on how much you apply, they can be washed away and found themselves in the rivers or in the lakes, and there, uh, exactly like in the fields, they will feed the algae, and the algae will grow a lot. So if there's a lot of fertilizer of nitrogen or phosphorus that found itself in a lake, for example, it can cause a massive growth of algae, and like you can see in this picture, what we call an eutrophication, and then everything else basically will die because the light will not get through this mass of algae, and everything under it will die. So this is a problem that sometimes happens, and that is quite dramatic. In addition to that, the production of nitrogen fertilizer demands a lot of energy to produce it through this Haber-Bosch process, or through this industrial production. So it's about 1 to 2 liters of gasoline to produce a kilogram of nitrogen, and this production of 1 kilogram of nitrogen um, uh, makes about 8.6 kilogram of CO2 emission. Knowing that 12% of the world's emission from agriculture are caused by the production of nitrogen fertilizer, so it has a large impact on climate change. But is this a problem for Africa? Um, Firstly, the eutrophication problem will be in Africa quite marginal because the use of fertilizer is usually low. And there are some cases of water, of lake or river eutrophication, but it's really not a lot, not like in Europe or in the US, so it's not a big problem. Now, the impact on climate change. The share of African emission due to synthetic fertilizer production is only 3%, so it's not much. So generally, I don't think we could say that the fertilizer production for African agriculture is a big problem, but independently from climate change, it is still really costly for many African producers to buy the fertilizer, the industrial fertilizer, so it's still important to find an alternative. So now the next problem is the excessive greenhouse gas emission in general that we can see in the agriculture. So agriculture is globally responsible for 24% of the global greenhouse gas emission. So it is, after the production of energy, the most polluting sector.